Welcome to Face the Facts. We are back, and it's good to be back. We have a special guest joining us tonight, and he has also done his sports show over in Reading.
Sports Mandate.
Sports Mandate, that's correct. This is John Hand. So, John, welcome to the Facts.
Thank you for having me. I'm very
welcome.
excited to be here.
Well, in case some of us don't know at home, again, we're a new program here in the North Reading community. We've been doing Face the Facts since 2006. And it's nice to be back. As a matter of fact, Face the Facts began right around this time in 2006. So what are we celebrating now? 8 years? Oh my goodness.
You're getting old.
Stop. You're out.
See ya.
But we have a lot of topics to discuss. There's a lot of things going on in Boston sports that are important to discuss. A lot of question marks.
It's a busy time.
And a lot of statements. It is very busy. Basically, every sports team has something going on in it. So that's something that we're going to look at a little bit more and talk about. And I want to lead off first with a team that was so close last year to getting a Stanley Cup, so close, but unfortunately didn't go their way. It was the Boston Bruins. So the season begins in October. That's a good thing. I know a lot of people are very excited about that when that comes. But what do they look like before the season starts?
I think going into this Bruins training camp, there's a lot more question marks than Bruins fans are used to seeing.
Yeah.
Zdeno Chara at 37 years old, what do his legs have left?
Yep.
Brad Marchand, he disappeared at times last year. What's he going to look like? Is consistency going to be part of his game? And then, of course, Jerome McGinley, you lose that right winger. That's 30 goals gone off your roster just like that. He's a Hall of Fame player. And now he's not on that roster anymore, and that's a big hole they have to fill.
There's also a couple other holes that they have to fill, and that has to deal with the salary cap. And on the salary cap, you have two players that are missing on this team right now, and that's Riley Smith, and that's, of course, Torrey Krug, who's had a phenomenal early go of it as a professional hockey player. Where do we see them fitting? And are they fitting, first of all, is the question, and how long is this going to take for this to play out?
I mean, like you mentioned, the salary cap has to be figured out. So that comes down to Peter Chiarelli. You know, he's probably going to have to get creative, maybe make a deal here or there, get creative with their contracts. With Torrey Krug, you need to bring this guy back. He is a vital part of their defense, and more importantly, a vital part of their offense and power play. He had 19 power play points last year that led the Bruins, and I mean, of course, the Bruins power play has been something that has been
It's sketchy.
It's sketchy. It's been a huge problem for that team, and Krug is a huge positive force on that power play, so he needs to be back.
Didn't Krug almost feel like a Chara, really young Chara type that you want to rely upon as years come? Chara's not getting any younger.
No, absolutely
He's not.
not.
And he looked completely tanked in that playoff run that they just went on. You know, as we found out, he had injuries and stuff.
He's logging 30 minutes a game.
He can't do that.
He can't do that.
He can't do that anymore. So the expectation on Chara right now should be that he has somebody that's being groomed to be like the next Chara, and that should be Krug.
Right. He's obviously undersized. He's not size-wise. He's not comparable to Chara, but talent-wise, he's a great offensive force. He had, what did he have, like 14 goals last year?
He's a puck-scoring defenseman is what he is.
Exactly.
So that's something that's so important to this team. I think that's the biggest story for the Bruins right now. No Smith and no Krug, trouble.
That is trouble. And like you just mentioned, Riley Smith, another big contributor to this team last year. Kind of one of the players in that Sagan, he came in that Sagan deal, and one of the players that wasn't the highlight player, wasn't a big part of that trade, but he really has paid off for them. And he's another.
Wasn't he the sixth-man award? Seventh or something like one of those?
He might have been.
Sixth-man award is what he got last year, and he had a great first half. Tailed off a little bit in the second, but still was able to produce and be a quality guy they could rely upon night in, night out.
Right.
So as the season kicks off right now, there is no Krug, no Smith. What's going to happen? Well, hopefully something good will happen.
We'll find out in the coming days.
Now, the one that I am most worried about, with Noah Gindler on that team, who is your goal scorer?
Right. Is it Louis Eriksson? Can he fit into that first line? I don't know. He had the concussion problems last year. He obviously has a ton of talent, and he can play everywhere. First line, second line, third line. Is he ready to be that consistent first line guy? And is it Marchand? He comes into camp. The reports are he's in great condition. And that, of course, you know, what will that lead to? But he's a big question mark going into the year. And Lucic is always the controversial. What does he really give you?
Now, Lucic had wrist surgery in the offseason.
Correct.
So to say that Lucic is going to come out and produce, no, it's going to take a while for that to come back.
And a lot of people are anti-Lucic.
Yes.
They just don't view him as a person who produces at the level that he's made up to produce. He's some will say an overrated player. And especially coming off that wrist surgery, what does he really give you?
Well, I know that a lot of the debate last year was that the way of game that Lucic plays, the NHL is kind of going in an opposite direction. You know, Lucic is the big tough guy, physical enforcer, things like that. The NHL is looking at more puck handling players that are, skillful, all that. So it makes you wonder, where does Lucic fit in with all this going forward? I don't know if he's even tradable, because I don't know if there's a team that would particularly want somebody like that on the team.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still pro Lucic at this time. I still think there's enough value. He gives you enough value to keep him on your roster, and he's a guy I would keep around for a little bit. So I'm not ready to trade him off. If you were to trade him off, they'd probably be able to find a suitor, but it would be tough, like you mentioned, because the style of hockey is more of the Patrick Kanes, the Sidney Crosbys, the more finesse type of players.
To be determined, I guess.
Exactly.
The puck will drop very shortly.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, moving forward to another topic, we wanted to cover the Bruins first because we felt that was the easiest thing to discuss and probably the lightest thing to discuss because the ice is about to crack with the Patriots right now.
Great segue right there.
Is ugliness too hard of a word to say for them right now?
Ugliness is the perfect adjective to describe this team. Coming into this year, I think there is this feeling around New England that this team was all in. This was the year. Coming into training camp, there was really no storylines coming out. It was every day, they look great, they look great again, they look great again. But when you really examine this roster, what did they really do in this offseason besides get Darrelle Revis? Get Brandon LaFell?
No. I'll throw it even better.
For you?
Traded Logan Mankins.
They traded Logan. Yeah. They got rid of things they needed. So I think this all-in mantra that surrounded this team was a false positive, and we have seen what this team is really capable of. It is, like you said, it is ugly.
You know what's tough is to say it's ugly, to say we're being negative. You look at it, can there be positives you can take away from it? Maybe a couple. Obviously, special teams has always been very good for them. The defense actually has been pretty damn good.
Right. I was going to say defensively there's a lot of positives, I think, to take away.
And that's even without Revis, I think, really doing much.
I don't think Revis has done much. I look at a guy like Chandler Jones, Dante Hightower, and Rob Mayo have all played fantastic, I think, all year.
And I think the number one player that, excuse me if you said his name already, Vince Wilfork. Yeah. Coming back from the injury, you had no idea. I mean, he's a big guy. Coming back from an injury like that can be very tough. So to see his ability out there, he's been out there, I think, every play, really hasn't taken a break. Came up with a huge play on Sunday. I thought they were going to lose that game.
It was very close. I was biting my nails down the stretch there. I mean, it came down to a holding call and Big Vince picking off that ball. But I think you're in terms of Chandler Jones being successful, I think that's because of Vince Wilfork.
Yeah, I do too.
He's so impactful on that defensive line that he creates opportunities for guys like Chandler Jones to get after the quarterback. And obviously in the run game, Vince Wilfork is second to none in stopping the run.
The other positive I think you can take from this has been Edelman.
Oh, absolutely.
The trust that Brady has with him, he's the only receiver you can really throw the ball to right now.
Yes, and right on that point, I think Edelman's a positive and a negative. It's positive that he's been doing this, but it's negative that that's the only guy Brady's throwing to.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Because he's going to get clocked. I mean, we've seen it with Welker.
He has gotten clocked.
He has.
Live, he got turned over, and there's a picture, and it's him literally upside down.
Yeah.
And it's horrible, and they have no deep threat. Nope. Gronkowski's a shell of himself. LaFell who? Amendola's invisible. It's pitiful that you have this quarterback in Tom Brady, who's a Hall of Fame quarterback, in my opinion, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, and to just rely on him year after year after year to produce and not give him the proper tools to succeed is just sad and pitiful. And the Crafts really need to spoon out the money to get someone.
How much more can Tom Brady take of this?
I don't know. I mean,
how is Tom Brady feeling right now? If you were to be a judge, what would you say?
He's pissed.
Yeah.
That guy is pissed. He's putting on the happy face. He's doing all the, the nice guy media things because that's who he is. But I think under that he is pissed, and I think Belichick's pissed too.
Yeah.
Because there's no way he can be happy. I mean, you look at that Raiders game towards the end. I believe it was in the fourth quarter. He got clocked by Justin Tuck. And
now he hasn't just got clocked once. Let's remind the folks at home. He is getting killed.
He's getting
killed.
Right.
This offensive line is downright disgraceful, and it's in ruins right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is there a point where this group can even be fixed or worked at? I don't know.
I mean, what's that guy? I forget his first. Devi. He's like a tuba player from Memphis that they picked off the street to play. I mean, they might as well have an open tryout at this point. It's pitiful. I think something that has gone kind of hasn't really been talked about is at the end of last year, after 30 seasons of being the offensive line coach, Dante Zarnecki decided not to come back this year, and I think that hurt. And
do you blame the guy now after this?
No, but I think the other thing that hurt them was also, like we talked about earlier, was trading Mankins, because you get rid of your coach, now you get rid of your leader. What's left? A bunch of guys who don't know how to block.
And here's a guy that I think has gotten worse as the couple seasons he's been in the NFL have progressed, and that's Nate Soldier.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that.
He is, I mean, he had at one point triple penalties back to back to back. How do you do that as an NFL?
Yeah.
How do you do that in the NFL as a player?
It's sad. And you look at Nate Soldier, I don't know his exact, he's a big guy. He's a huge guy, and I think he's a first-round draft pick, and I think he's got the right skills there to be a valuable offensive lineman. He just needs the right coaching. And I've heard, I think Greg Bedard was talking about this the other day on Felger and Maz. I guess he's more of a sensitive guy, which doesn't, exactly.
Oh, a sensitive lineman.
Right, exactly.
Nice. That's just what Brady wants.
It doesn't reassure Pats fans across New England, but these coaches clearly aren't hitting the right chord with him, and it's shown.
I know Belichick came out yesterday and said that I have full confidence in my offensive line coach and all the ability that they can be able to do. But truth be told, we have a lot of players that are out of position too. You have a center, which was, I believe his last name is Wendell. He was centering for Brady for, I believe, all of last year. He's injured. So there's another body that they have to readjust and put in place. And it honestly feels like to me it's a puzzle game.
It is. And
there used to be a TV show back on PBS called The Puzzle Place.
Okay.
These little puppet things. And that's what this reminds me of right now. It's The Puzzle Place.
The Puzzle Place New England Patriots edition. Maybe that we could get that going. Maybe after the Face the Facts.
Yeah, that's coming in another month. So stay tuned for that. But that's what it feels like. And as a fan, you have to be upset about it. I don't want to use the the P word, but you have to be pissed.
Yeah.
You have to.
You really do. And the other thing that's hurting is their run game. And with Gronk they're not putting Gronk out there to run block. And, I think that's the right decision because he'd probably get hurt.
Yeah.
But it's without him and with that offensive line, they're barely getting 100 yards a game.
Now, I'm sure you know what like a pink hat is. A pink hat being, I just go to the game and I just be with my friends and stuff like that. Or, it could be a lady or something like that. It's like, I'm just here for my friends, whatever. Pink hats would say that Rob Gronkowski has had a great season so far. Pink hat being fantasy. Oh, he's getting the points. What are you talking about? But let's be honest here. He looks not very good.
No, but he had, he's had 2 surgeries this past offseason, another surgery before that. He's just been so banged up. And
so do you think that it's just going to be a process to get him back moving, or is this what we're going to see? Is this the Gronk that's going to be Gronk?
It's sad, but this is the Gronk that's going to be Gronk. And that's because I'd almost call it a successful season because he hasn't gotten hurt yet.
Yeah, that's true.
He's still on the field. That's a positive, right?
Yeah.
But I think even with him not being great, he's still a great red zone target because he's so big. He's almost impossible to guard. So with his size, I think that adds value to the field. He's someone you have to game plan for.
Yep.
But the problem is that it's Edelman, Gronk. You need Gronk to just kind of be in the mix there. He's a primary target right now, and he's not in condition to be a primary target.
And I don't think the tight end that they got from the Mankins trade, I believe it's Julian Wright or something like that.
Timothy Wright, I think.
Timothy Wright
he hasn't done anything.
That's not the Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski type. That's not what it was.
No, and I don't know whether he just hasn't picked up the system yet or what, but it's just awful. And the thing with the Mankins deal, I feel like you could have just gotten him for a 4th-round pick.
Yeah.
Did you really need to throw Mankins in there? I think that was just a penny pinching move.
It was. For some reason, it's all about cap and things like that, but you have one of the most successful franchises in football.
Mm-hmm.
Should we really be concerned about a cap?
No, we should not be.
Get over it, Bill. Get over it.
They're trying to build for the future.
What's his name? Mr. Big, Robert Kraft.
Yeah.
Mr. Big. He'll just build another casino down the street and monopolize on things. I mean, honestly, when I saw that move, I was bull.
Yeah.
I was bull.
Yeah.
After all the money that man has made from stuff, you keep a player that's there. That number one is there to protect your franchise player.
Right.
If they don't have Tom Brady, forget the season, I think.
Right, and the people that were pro the Mankins trade were saying Mankins lost the step. Yeah. And you can make that argument if you look at the stats. He had lost a bit of a step and watch the tape. But I think there's no stat for the amount of leadership he brought to that team and to that line, and they miss that right now. There's just no rhythm to that offense, and it's painful to watch, especially when they almost lose to the Raiders.
They're searching for it. They're going to continue to search. They have one extra day to prepare because we don't have a Sunday game this week. We play the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. That will probably be the toughest test of the season so far. I can probably safely say that.
Yes, it will be a good test for this team. I like their defensive chances without having completely healthy Jamal Charles, if he plays or not. And Alex Smith is, an average quarterback. So I think that defensively, they should be all right. Kansas City does have a terrific pass rush, and they've got a solid defense there. And so that'll be a real true test for this offense if they can, with that extra day, really work something out and start putting some points on the board.
I mean, I see a game that could go. I mean, the offense has been so anemic that it might just be like a 21-20 kind of game. You don't know. You don't know. But the game plan has to be to get better. That's the only thing that they need to worry about is getting better on every ounce of play on the side of the ball for them.
Yeah, I think each week you always want to see progress. Once you see decline, that's when you know things are bad. But there's a lot of improvement that needs to be done on this team. Honestly, I think they need to go out and get someone. Trade deadline's October 23rd. I don't think the personnel on offense right there is there right now for them to really go deep into the playoffs.
I don't either. I really don't. But that leads us to our other question on the Patriots. Where do we expect them to finish as the season
They'll be atop the
goes on?
AFC East.
You do believe that?
I do believe that. The Jets are a joke. I mean, if you watch Monday Night Football, I think that's pretty
that was
clear.
fun.
Yeah. It's more of a comedy show than a football game.
Miami's not up on the list for you?
No, because I don't think Tannehill's legit.
Okay.
I think Mike Wallace has bailed him out countless times.
It'd be nice to have a Mike Wallace, wouldn't it?
Right, it would be great, and they had the chance to get him, but they passed. And I think the Bills will eventually fade. I think each team's better, and the AFC East is going to be harder to win, but I do think the Patriots, at the end of the day, will be atop the AFC East when we're talking later in December.
Well, that's the Patriots' whole mess.
Yeah.
There's a lot more of a mess, isn't there? A whole lot more of a mess. And that brings us to a couple things before the mess. Right now, the rest of the NFL, if you were to say the best team is right now, who would it be?
Seattle Seahawks.
You like the Seahawks?
I know they had that loss to the Chargers, but I would not want to play Seattle, especially in Seattle.
Yep.
That's still a deadly defense. Russell Wilson's the best game manager in the game. And overall, they can run the ball, they can throw the ball, and they play good defense. They're an all-around team. They're coached well. Everything's good.
Yeah, I do like the Seahawks right now. I really do. I got to say right now, probably my team that I'm surprised with is Green Bay. Not because of wins or losses, just because when is their chance of dominance really going to come into play? They have Aaron Rodgers, they got Jordy Nelson, they got some great quality players there. But it always seems they're 7-7 or 8-9 or 9, whatever. It doesn't seem like they go on a big run. Why is that?
Their defense has sucked.
Okay.
Offensively, they are still, right, you mentioned they have the tools there offensively. They've tried to create that, this year anyway, the failure has really come. They've tried to create that balanced attack with the running game and the passing game. But Eddie Lacy has done horrible. He's on my fantasy team, and he could really do better, but it's just not producing.
So you would lead it to the defense, not more of a running game. You would say it's more of the defense side?
Yes, and they lost B.J. Raji going into the season. That hurt them a lot.
Okay.
And they've never, outside of Clay Matthews, they've never really had those pieces on defense to truly put together a good team to go with that high-intensity offense.
That's a fair statement to say. I do like the Seahawks, though. What they showed, not even if they had lost, I think, against the Colts, that team, to mess with them in their house, you can't really do it.
Right.
I mean, Russell Wilson's numbers at home are phenomenal.
Yeah, the 12th man's a fact.
Yeah,
it really is.
And when he goes on a road, he's 9-8, something like that. That team I see again as a Super Bowl contender.
Absolutely.
And I still see the Denver Broncos, as much as we hate to say it here in this area, as another contender too.
And the thing that drives me nuts, it drives me bananas about the Denver Broncos, is the fact of the tools they have put around Peyton Manning. Look at the way they have went out and spent to get that guy tools. And look at what he's done with them. Record-setting year last year. And then also this year on defensively they got some money.
And that's even with Demaryius Thomas not being as fully healthy.
Yeah. And Welker, Welker hasn't really played much.
And Welker just coming back from things. We're going to talk about that soon in a minute. But now the thoughts on how the NFL really looks. All right?
The Shield.
This year was the first for Thursday Night Football. They really wanted to go out and promote it and do the best they could to sell the sport. Not that they needed to, but it is one of the most popular, if not the most popular sport to watch and all that. What a travesty it's been at the beginning of the season. Is that a strong enough word?
I don't know.
Joke, travesty,
I don't know if there's enough
embarrassment.
words. It's pathetic, disgusting. I think disgusting is the appropriate word with the NFL's been. It's Roger Goodell needs to go. I think at the end of the day, he needs to go. The NFL commissioner, in the NFL handbook, it says it says something along the lines of a commissioner needs to show integrity, and there's just no integrity with that guy.
I'm going to steal a line from Felger and Maz. We've already referenced them once. Gutless pukes.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of these players are in NFL. And I think until they fix this problem, then we're going to continue to see more unfortunate things like Ray Rice's situation and Adrian Peterson's situation. There are a lot of problems.
There's a lot of problems, and there will always be scandal in the NFL. That's not something you can get rid of. What you can change is how you take care of it. And the NFL has mismanaged just about every controversy so far this season.
They've even managed to make a travesty of their drug policy. I mean, to say one suspended for a season and say, oh, wait a minute, we made a mistake. You're actually going to be able to play now. That also looks really sketchy and really fishy too. Yes,
it does, but I haven't looked in depth into the drug policy, but I think that non-performance enhancing drugs, there needs to be a penalty. But Josh Gordon smoking weed does not deserve a season-long suspension when Ray Rice hits his girlfriend.
Exactly. That's where the system was flawed.
Right. Exactly.
So they needed to fix it and make it so it wasn't, as flawed like we said. Now, the whole thing with the Ray Rice scandal, what are your thoughts towards that?
I mean, it's horrendous. It's disgusting in every sense, And the thing that bugs me the most about this is that it took that video coming out for people, or for the NFL really to act.
Yep.
Did you really need to see what happened in that elevator? The bottom line is he hit his girlfriend, and that is not okay. Men should not hit women. It's unacceptable. I don't care if you're drunk. I don't care if you're mad. It's unacceptable. And he should have been suspended from the year from the minute he got charged with domestic abuse.
You think the NFL covered this up big time?
Absolutely. There is no way that Roger Goodell did not see that videotape. It was sent to his office. There's elevators in that camera. The prosecutor gets, and that's the other people who have gotten off the hook is the New Jersey prosecutor and all those people in that court system. They are getting by with a pass, and they should not be. And the prosecutor automatically asks for all the video evidence in that hotel, the hallway camera, the elevator camera, everything you obviously got sent to the NFL, and Roger Goodell just turned a blind eye to it because Ray Rice sells jerseys and fills seats.
I was just going to ask you that. Why did Roger Goodell look the other way on it?
because he's the face of the Baltimore franchise.
Okay.
And he sells, like I just said, sells jerseys, puts people into those seats. Steve Buscemi, it's been talked about how much he loved Ray Rice, the owner of the Ravens, how much he loved Ray Rice, how much he meant to that franchise. And so this is a guy, and of course, Steve Buscemi is ultimately Roger Goodell's boss. And this is a guy that they wanted on the field on Sundays and not sitting at home watching it.
The biggest joke that I got out of the whole thing was that first game, that opening night on there, and all the people wearing Ray Rice jerseys.
They should be ashamed of themselves.
Give me a break, honestly. Those people should have been banned from the stadium. I know you can't do that, but they should have been. I mean, it was at the point where I didn't even watch it because I didn't even want to promote anything that's like that. When you wear a jersey that's like that, what it's doing is it's almost like you're promoting and saying, oh, you know what, Ray Rice is still great and everything like that.
It's pathetic that they...
Now, he did have a bad season last year in terms of his ability on the field.
Right.
So to even say that he's the face of the Ravens right now after that season he put up last year, and that's questionable to look at too, because he really didn't do much last year.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know what he was busy doing. So
I know. Yeah, I mean, you could obviously make the case that he was on his way out. He was on a decline, but he was still one of their more high-profile players.
Yeah, he still was. So the big question here will be, we know the system's flawed on how they love to penalize people. Is he banned for life in the NFL?
If the NFL doesn't ban him, I don't know what team would sign him at this point, especially after the season that he did have on the decline. He's just too much of a problem.
You don't think there's a crazy NFL team out there that would sign him?
There's crazy NFL teams out there. I don't know if there's an NFL team out there that's
You know where I see him at?
The
Raiders.
Oh, I was going to say the Jets.
The Raiders. That's where all the ex-convicts go or something like that.
Well, it's either the Ravens or the Raiders.
Yeah, something like that. So I just remember back in the day, I mean, all the scandals that the Raiders used to have for stuff. I mean, they used to have the thugs out there.
I think the Raiders, I mean, we could do a whole show on the Raiders franchise. That's such a fascinating how they've just messed up time after time again. But I think they're trying to turn a new leaf, and I think bringing Ray Rice back would kind of turn back the clock a little bit, and that's not something they want to do.
So we'll definitely see what happens on that area. The other area that we need to talk about is a player that also wears the color of purple. And that's not a Purple Heart by any means. That's Adrian Peterson.
Yeah. It's sad what he did. It's despicable to beat your kid to the point where he has scars. It's a different than the Ray Rice situation in this sense, and I'm not defending him by any means. That he thought in his demented mind that he was doing the right thing. And it wasn't the right thing, clearly, but that was his intent. So in that respect, it differs, but obviously you should not beat your child with a stick to the point where he has scars. That is just not acceptable.
Down south, apparently, that's the way of life.
Yeah, he said that's how he was
a couple different people speak about this topic, and one of them happened to be my favorite, Charles Barkley, where they brought in for that wonderful Sunday commentary and said that he fully supports Adrian Peterson and he understands what he did to his kid. Now, I cannot stand Charles Barkley for 1 ounce of a minute or a drop, so I was tweeting myself, CBS, get him off the stage right now. I don't believe in any kind of violence or behavior like that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because I've been raised up here, same with you. It's very, very difficult to tell a parent how to raise their kid.
Yeah. And I think Adrian Peterson just took it too far. And he sent those text messages to his to the child's mother after that. You know, I took it too far. So I think he did know he took it too far. Doesn't excuse it by any means. I'm not trying to, once again, not trying to defend him, but he knew he messed up. Yeah, and you know, Adrian Peterson isn't the world's greatest dad. He has like a bunch of different kids with a lot of different women too.
So how about how the Vikings handled this situation, all right? So we know that he did not play against the Patriots, but they lost. They went 0-2. And then they come back and say, you know, we'll let this play out. You know, we'll put him on the team and everything like that. Then we hear, no, you are not being able to play week 3. What do you think about that whole thing?
I think it feeds right into the hypocrisy of the NFL.
Yep.
Because they brought him back because, like you mentioned, they need that run production. But then their sponsors say, oh, no, we're going to pull back, and we're not going to support this team because Adrian Peterson's going to be on the field. And then they go, oh, wait a minute, we're actually not going to let Adrian Peterson play.
So does this hurt the Vikings not putting him on the field?
Production, wins and loss-wise?
For everything.
obviously, wins and loss-wise, it does, because we saw what the Patriots did without him on the field, and that's, some would argue, a mediocre Patriots team put a clinic on. Off the field, obviously, that's not a cloud you want around your team.
As you said, playing into the hypocrisy of the NFL, this is killing them. Adrian Peterson is a superstar for the NFL. This bites more than Ray Rice, to tell you the truth. It does. It
does, and I think it got put onto the rug a little bit because of the Ray Rice stuff. It got a lot of attention. I'm not trying to say.
So here's the next question: What's worse?
I mean,
it's both terrible, but what's the kicker of the whole thing? I mean, right
it's
here?
like, would you rather be burned to death or get shot? You know,
that's how I feel. I feel they both should be in a separate category and separate class. They're equally as bad.
It's uncomparable circumstances.
So we'll see what happens with this. Now, I asked you the question about, is Ray Rice going to be banned for life in the NFL? Will Adrian Peterson play again this season?
I don't think he'll play this season. Okay. There's too much negativity surrounding the shield of the NFL.
Right.
It would be that's not something the NFL needs right now. I do think eventually he will come back into the NFL. I don't know if it's going to be with the Vikings or not, but I think
my next question.
Eventually he will be back in the NFL.
I was thinking about where he could end up. You know, he would be on a lot of teams' dream list. He would be. I mean, if you want the running back, he's the face of premier running back types that are going to get you numbers, produce, and win.
Right.
Wouldn't he look good in a Patriots jersey?
He would. He would look great.
Under a different circumstance. You know, let's say he never did any of this stuff. But I don't think the Patriots would want to risk something like that.
I mean, they've had a history of bringing in players with troubled pasts.
What a story this would make.
Right. I mean, talk about trouble. I'm sure with the Aaron Hernandez situation, they'll be a little more mindful because that's the last thing they need. But I think in due course, I think this will calm down and we'll start to forget about it, like the Michael Vick situation with the dogfighting. You know, people have started to re-embrace Michael Vick, and I think that'll eventually happen.
That's sick, too. That's sick, too. I'm just thinking about the whole Jets situation now. Do they let Michael Vick play next week? Boy,
Gino's nothing special.
No, he's not anything special. So maybe it'll take another concussion for Michael Vick to realize he's really not an NFL quarterback anymore.
Right.
But, you know, that's the lesson sometimes they have to take. So
a few hits to the head. Maybe they'll knock him good into him.
Is there anything else in football that needs to be brought up?
I think the NFL needs an independent commissioner. And what I mean by that is 50% of the players, the decision of the commissioner is decided 50% by the NFL Players Association, 50% by the owners. That needs to happen to have the best interest of the league and not just the owners. Roger Goodell makes $44 million a year, and that's because the revenue of the NFL is $9 billion, and the owners are just counting the money, and they don't care really what's going on unless it affects their money.
It was funny when I was thinking about everything that was going on. You know, you didn't see that many sponsors back out from things. We saw the Radisson Hotel backed out from a sponsorship from the Vikings. That was a good statement, but you didn't really see much else.
No, they issued statements. You know, we're real concerned.
Yeah,
great, do something about it.
I have to. I wasn't surprised. I was most surprised that one sponsor at least backed out, which was the Radisson. Good for them.
Yeah.
I'll stay at their hotel any day of the week.
Exactly.
But it's such a brand right now, NFL, the NFL football, that, you know, it's going to take a lot more than things like this to hurt your brand.
Right, and the problem is us.
And I can't believe I'm saying that.
Right, because every Sunday we're going to tune right back in.
Fantasy football, do I get 20 points from him?
Exactly.
That's another thing that's playing into it, too.
But I'll admit it, I don't want to give up my football on Sundays.
No, I don't either.
I don't. And so until we really want to do that, the NFL is just going to keep doing the NFL.
And I still swear that the reason the NFL, everybody likes it, that gets in the fantasy and all that, is because it's one Sunday. It's not baseball. It's not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, down your throat. It's once on a Sunday or a Monday or a stupid Thursday night.
Yeah. And the other thing I think has always been important for the NFL is they have a regular season that matters.
Yeah, they do.
You don't see that. I mean, there's 108, what is it, 62, 82, I don't even know, games in baseball. Who cares about a Wednesday night game in July? But a Thursday night game towards Thanksgiving?
I mean, I'm leaving the studio right after tonight. I'm going to go watch the Red Sox. Not. But that's the whole gist of what it means for the NFL. So that's the one thing, if you think about it, why they're doing so well is because of that whole few games. Means a lot for the regular season. It's not like a baseball or hockey or basketball.
And I think the NFL will eventually come down off its peak a little bit for two reasons. Yep. One is stuff like this. They're mishandling this. It hurts them greatly. And player safety, because it's such a violent game. Concussion and head issues have been brought up, are a huge topic in the news now. And so with what we see, former NFL players suffering from dementia and Junior Seau obviously killing himself, people are concerned about the safety of the NFL, and if they make it too much of an offensive game, that's going to greatly hurt the league overall.
Sure will. Sure will. Well, we hope you enjoyed the football part of our show. We're going to throw the curveball next and go into baseball. We were on the verge of going to the playoffs this time last year. It was very exciting. Very exciting. We had a great team. They were coming together, producing, all that. Fun to watch, too. Boy, did we take a 180.
Yeah.
That was quick.
That was very quick. We have to go back to 2012 here. And at the epitome of the Red Sox downfall, they needed to rebuild. And their idea of rebuilding was we need certain veteran players who maybe can contribute, keep this team competitive while we infuse the young talent in our farm system. And what happened in 2013 was magical. This team lifting the city after the bombing, players just playing to the utmost of their ability, and they exceeded expectations and they won the World Series. And that wasn't supposed to happen. That wasn't in the script.
No.
They weren't planning that. And I think now, obviously, we didn't expect them to be this bad this year, but we set our expectations so high after last year that it inevitably hurt this team.
There's a lot of blame pie to go around. A lot. Not apple pie, blame pie. And the pie that you could particularly toss can come from a few factors. There's a lot of different failures that can come from this season. Again, I don't mean to be negative here. We're not here to do that. We're here to talk about the way to improve upon things. There has been some success with some things this year, too.
Sure.
But the overall result is if you do not make the playoffs, it's a failure. In Boston sports, if you don't make it, it's a failure. Big F. The one person or a couple people that you can put right across on your list for the blame pie has to lead right from your general manager, and that's Ben Cherington. You can also put the owners into play.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben Cherington deserves a slice of blame pie. And the reason for that is because he just overestimated how good this team's going to be, overestimated his outfield, and really didn't do much in the bullpen, didn't get the right starting pitching. Yeah, he didn't make, I guess really overall offensively, he overestimated this team and didn't get the right pieces for them to have a successful offensive year.
We mentioned the outfield. The outfield was one of the worst in the league, if not still the worst. But your veterans, number one, not producing, that killed them.
Absolutely. And injuries also hurt them with Shane Victorino not really being there, Daniel Nava being a shell, not even a shell, just not even himself from a year before.
I will give Nava a little bit, I'm going to be positive on this a little bit. He started out and he was pathetic.
Yeah.
He showed that he was nothing but a minor league reject, to put it harsh. I'm sorry, Daniel. I'm sorry if you're watching. He's not, but he ended up turning it around a little bit. I mean, he's hitting a respectable 270-ish right now.
Right.
He came from 110 from an average all the way up. Good job.
Yeah.
Not just, you know, I mean, he was hitting like 300 when he returned.
He just did it at the wrong time.
He did it at the real wrong time. Another thing with veterans, we lost a huge veteran last year in our center fielder, and that was Ellsbury. That one still bites me.
See, yes, it bugs me that they didn't get the proper center fielder. Doesn't bug me as much that they didn't. I would not have given that contract to Jacoby.
You would not have. Okay.
Injury history, that length, that money, that's way too much. They didn't realize how valuable a leadoff guy is in your lineup every day, and that obviously hurt them. But still, I do not give Jacoby Ellsbury.
Remember how we talked about the Logan Mankins situation with the Patriots and how they're trying to, you know, make sure the cap is all set. Baseball doesn't have a salary cap. Okay,
Right.
We have stupid owners that make billions. If you can't pay to get a quality producer who's a table setter in your lineup, who was a clog on the bases, I mean, forget. That's what Ellsbury was most valuable to this team with.
Yeah.
Him getting on base, whether it was a single or not, he's going to turn that most likely into a double or a triple. And that's what got Pedroia the RBIs and got him success too.
Right.
You're missing that piece. You had Brock Holt up at top of the lineup, which was a great success story. But let's be honest here. He's Brock Holt.
He's a super utility player.
He is not going to produce the numbers that we saw for the rest of his career.
Well, he hasn't.
He's not.
He hasn't in the
and
second
he's been
half of
out
the
right
season.
now
Right.
for a concussion. Granted, he's going to hit a respectable 281 to finish the season. He's not a leadoff hitter. Your leadoff hitter was Ellsbury.
Right. Yeah. They didn't realize how important a leadoff hitter was.
Yeah.
If these owners, John Henry, said we're going to spend as much money as it takes to put a winning team out there, then absolutely sign Ellsbury. But these guys do put a limitation.
And I do agree with the money. The money was ridiculous for it. But again, I look at the whole situation. Are we the Tampa Bay Rays here? Or are we the Boston Red Sox? We're going to put on our big boy pants and give the money to the players that deserve it.
Right.
It's dicey to say that he could deserve it. But when you have him go to your rival and help them, no, they didn't make the playoffs, but he helped them. He made it close. That's where you look at the whole situation and say, boy, did we overvalue a couple things.
Yeah.
A lot of things, as a matter of fact. And that will transition me into rookie production now. If you think about the successes for first off. We talked about Holt, which I guess he can qualify as a rookie this year.
He's a rookie, yeah.
All right. Who's your leader for the rookie production? Who's your top of the list?
I mean, none of them. I guess Mookie Betts kind of here and there. He was the best. But I think overall the Red Sox just tried to infuse too much young talent at once, and it just didn't work out. They weren't ready. I think Xander Bogaerts, I think the ceiling's still high on him. They shouldn't have messed with him by putting him at third and short.
Yeah.
I think he's a shortstop. Keep him there. That's where he's his happiest. That's where he succeeds the most. And I think that Xander still has a lot to prove, or a lot to show.
I definitely think the rookies are the thing that killed this team. You know, I don't think it was the veterans. I know they got hurt and everything, but if you have to look at it, the rookies, and that's what everybody wanted. Everybody wanted Will Middlebrooks at third, and they wanted Xander at short, they wanted Bradley in center, and even for catcher, they wanted Vasquez and everybody else up. We wanted to do all the rookies and just see how it goes. F.
Yeah, it didn't work out. I actually, Vasquez is another guy I forgot about who is pretty good. He's got a good throw to second.
Yep. He's a great major league catcher.
Right.
Hitting, he's got to come across with it.
And that'll develop.
And I think it will develop.
Yeah.
Now, Jackie Bradley Jr.
Right, and that was a big part of their not signing Jacoby Ellsbury. I think they thought JBJ was ready to step in there and be your everyday center fielder, and he wasn't.
Surprised on that?
Yes, because the reports coming in on him where he was the next messiah for this Red Sox team, and he just wasn't. For whatever reason it was, he just couldn't get his swing down. He's fixing his swing down Pawtucket right now, and he was never the player that he was hyped up to be.
Did you ever read the Alex Spear pieces from WEEI?
Here and there.
He's a great reporter that they have there, and I always value what he has to say because he knows what the farm system's like. He's somebody that you want to trust as a reader or a subscriber of anything from the Globe to WEI to whatever. He's somebody that you want to be able to know, this player's going to do this, and he's going to tell it like it is. I've been a big Alex Spear fan from a long time, and this isn't just him. This is a lot of different people, but these guys have just completely overrated this system. They've made fans feel like we have the Taj Mahal of the minor league system. And that's fine. We can say that that's great. But let's just talk about the jump. Going from AAA to the majors is a huge jump that a lot of people forget. We expect Dustin Pedroia, when he came up, he struggled. We expect players to just be David Ortiz-like.
Yeah, I think these players are overhyped a little bit. Their scouting reports, I think, are ultimately a little off.
Yep.
But they produce at the AAA and the minors, and like you said, that jump, they think they can just easily ease right into the major league levels, and they can't.
So Jackie Bradley's in his category. Personally, my feeling on him when he came up, I never thought he looked like a major league player. Here's why I said that, and that was because he needed more seasoning. He was completely rushed to the major leagues, completely. And he even started in 2012's mess. He was a part of that. He was there for that too. Speaking of which, we're going to keep it on the Jackie Bradley terms. We're just going to change the name. That's Middlebrooks.
Yeah, he's too busy with Jenny Dell right now. I think
I would be too, but we'll keep it clean here. His season, is he a major league player anymore?
No, he's done. I think Pablo Sandoval is a guy who's going to be entering free agency. He's obviously going to demand a huge contract, but if I was the Boston Red Sox, I would make the funds available to sign him.
And the other player that I like personally, and this name doesn't come up that much, I think he could be a Dustin Pedroia type, maybe even better, and that's Darwin Cecchini. He's playing third base a little bit. It might be a new name for you hearing.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him.
I like that guy. He looks good. So when you were talking about third base, they're using Darwin over third a little bit right now. I like his ability. The ability from him looks promising. We just talked about the hitters and the offensive guys for your lineup. It's also important to talk about the pitching. And pitching is what wins you championships. Let's be honest.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think pitching's important, but you need the offense there.
Okay.
I mean, look at the Tigers right now. Might not win the World Series. Or actually, I think the better example is the A's.
Yeah.
They have
the A's are definitely a good example. Yep.
The best pitching rotation in baseball, and they took Cespedes right out of the middle of that order, and that hurt them drastically.
Big time.
So I think pitching comes first. If you have the good pitching and the decent offense, then you will win championships. But look at even the Red Sox this year. They had a solid pitching rotation, but they forgot about the offense, and that hurt them drastically,
they blew up.
Losing these 1- and 2-run games.
We know there's no Lester on the team. Jake Peavy's gone. John Lackey's in St. Louis. You have Felix Doubront, probably at the farm in Chicago because they didn't want him. Who else are we forgetting from that group?
Buckholz.
Buckholz, who is still here. From the rookies that came up, you had the names of Anthony Ronaldo, Ruby De La Rosa, Alan Webster, Stephen Wright a little bit, and impressed?
Yes and no, I guess, in their kind of limited work. Pitching this in the free agency is going to be their top priority because you need that frontline pitcher that they just don't have right now. I'm in the camp that thinks they will bring Lester back.
Okay, I am too.
But at the same time, you're going to need another piece there, whether that be a James Shields, a Justin Masterson. I would love, I don't think this will happen, but if they can make a package and get Chris Sale, I think that would be terrific. He's a pitcher entering his prime who has been putting up tremendous numbers. He's been the Cy Young talks year after year. But you need to get pitching. I think the young guys, like you mentioned, La Rosa or Webster, will figure in to be your number 5 starter on opening day 2015.
You know, what I like about this team is it seems like we have a lot of pieces, a lot of depth that can execute a trade.
Yeah.
And that brings me to our next point. I know you just brought up Chris Sale, and that leads us, all those guys that we just named, Ronaldo, Workman, I didn't mention, I don't see them in that rotation. I might see 1 or 2, but everybody can't fit.
Right.
So they got to go somewhere, which leads me to believe we have a logjam of players in the outfield right now that can probably package something together to get something in return. What's that something going to be? I'm not sure yet.
Right.
There's somebody out there that we're not talking about right now that could be a name that's with the Red Sox come to 2015's opener.
Yeah, I mean, Giancarlo Stanton's been the name that's been thrown around, but after his horrific injury, who knows what the status of what his status is going to be. Yeah, but the key here is we kind of brushed upon these players not being able to produce at the major league level. They got to keep this hype up and keep them down the minors so their trade value is up and they can put those packages
together. So
their
value went down, I would have to say.
I mean, obviously, I think it exposed them. These players got exposed.
A couple that even were decent leveled. That probably was a De La Rosa out of that group. But too many innings for the guy. I mean, he can't even pitch 4 innings right now.
Yeah.
I saw a couple starts this month where it looked like he just didn't even want to be out there. So I think maybe that has to do with them knowing the season's going to be over.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing meaningless baseball.
You're playing meaningless baseball, I don't think does you any good.
Oh, absolutely.
It does you no good.
Especially with these young guys, you get bad habits, and bad habits are never good.
Where do you feel Lester will end up going?
I think he will come back to Boston.
You do?
I'm always down for a conspiracy theory. You know, maybe they said, we're going to ship you out, get Jonas Cespedes back, and we'll bring you back. Maybe
it's nice to hear the same opinion, because I am from the Lester camp too.
Yeah. I think him as an ace isn't necessarily the best label for him, but finding that true ace can be tough, and I think he's the best available right now.
Well, what's so important about Lester is he's proven it here. He's proven he wants to be here and wants to stay. He's left his house here. It's not for sale.
Yeah.
It's still here. He has continued to have dialogue with John Farrell. I don't know if you knew about that. He is continuing to talk and talk and talk, and feels I would be blown away if he's not a Red Sox.
I mean, I could see, it depends what he wants in the offseason. Does he want to come back to Boston, his hometown, or not his hometown, but where he grew up essentially, or does he chase the money?
I don't see that from him.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know. I mean, I'm just saying it from what I've seen. I just don't see that from him. The only other team I could see him potentially going to is the Cubs.
Yeah,
with Theo.
Right. Yeah, Theo
but
obviously.
But then again, he has to think about, what do I have a better chance here of doing? Are the Cubs going to win anytime soon? Maybe, but the Red Sox, to me, would still seem like they have the best potential.
Right. The Red Sox, I mean, the Yankees have been thrown around in that conversation. They'll obviously...
See, I don't think Lester would go to the Yankees. And because I don't think he wants to make the same mistake Ellsbury did and, tick people off.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I don't know what he wants, but if he's after the dollar signs, I think the Yankees will put up the money.
That's the thing. This is a business. The business is something that it will play itself out for on and on. They're going to go somewhere where the highest bidder is, whether it's $2 over or not.
Right.
They are.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's going to be. Things we do when we wrap up a program is we play the game called Face Off.
Okay, I'm excited.
Face Off is obviously a knockoff of Face the Facts. So just to explain to our guests at home how we do this, our audience, if the guest thinks the statement is legit that the host reads, that's me. They say fact.
Okay.
If the guest thinks that the statement is only of the opinion of the host, or it could be the opinion of the world, they will say opinion.
Okay.
All right, so you have a couple different options you can go about it. I had already made my answers cleared, just so I'm not cheating. I'm not a cheater. I have my answer already set to go. Some of these statements will be a little bit of a recap since we've been talking on the air, so we apologize if they're a carryover, but we're just going to play it as is. There's 5 statements, and then there's a tie, and we'll have another thing. So there's 5. If you beat me, congratulations, you win a prize. Statement 1. Adrian Peterson will be back playing this season in the NFL.
Opinion, like you said, we touched on this earlier. I think there's just too much controversy surrounding the NFL right now to bring him back. It's the last thing Roger Goodell needs is another press conference explaining why he did something. I don't see Adrian Peterson playing on Sundays. This next one, I'm a big fan of this question. Okay.
I was excited about this one coming up. This one really
Seem
was
excited, yeah.
Yeah, this one was a good one. We will not see another championship for all Boston sports teams in the next 10 years.
I think that's complete opinion.
Okay.
Absolutely, we will see another championship.
Okay.
These teams are too good. Yep. I know the Red Sox stunk this year, but they can easily turn it around. They have the pieces there. They could easily be in World Series contention if they get the right pitching. The Patriots, I know they stink right now. Let's say they make a move before the trade deadline, bring in the right offensive personnel. I like the Patriots being able to win a Super Bowl, even next year. Let's say they bring back Revis. And then, of course, the Bruins. I think the Bruins are right there. Are a team that's in cup contention again this year. The Celtics being the one outlier of a team that's, on the rebuild. But hey, in 5 years' time, maybe Marcus Smart turns out to be the next LeBron, and you got a banner 18.
Now, I hope I'm wrong when I do a statement, when I say this statement. I hope I'm wrong. But actually, I don't think there will be another championship in 10 years. I think that we've drank in too much Kool-Aid here in Boston sports, and I think we are spoiled, rotten brats. How's that statement?
I think that's preposterous. I see no way that there won't be another championship in 10 years.
Again, I hope I'm wrong, but I just want to throw a curveball out there. Dustin Pedroia will never be an elite, run-producing, MVP player on the Boston Red Sox.
Again, he'll never be, opinion.
Okay.
You kind of said this earlier in the show. He didn't have that leadoff guy to get him get on base. And I think with a better lineup next year, we will see, in a healthy Dustin Pedroia, we will see a MVP-type player again. He's already won an MVP in 2008. We know he can do it. And injuries are the one concern I have with him. But I think he's kind of learned how to preserve himself a little bit, especially after having to get surgery this year. So I think he'll be all right.
I don't think he will be an elite player anymore. I'm sorry to say it. Dustin Pedroia was always a big fan. I was a big fan of his. But let me tell you something. And this is something that it's hard to say because you want players to give their all.
Right.
You want them trying hard. You want them diving for balls and doing everything possible to be in the lineup, to be a Cal Ripken Ironman. You just do.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with Pedroia. He's breaking down. And he's getting older.
Right.
And the one thing that you look at is, can that player change his ability? Can he change not being a dirt dog every single day in that lineup? What I see here with Dustin Pedroia is the Trot Nixon syndrome. I love Trot Nixon. He would dive for balls, give everything, but you saw him break down right in front of your eyes, and that's what you're seeing with Pedroia. It's sad to say it, but I think that contract they just gave him is going to end up being one of the worst that they handed out, sadly.
I think the contract will end up working out. The one concern I did have is that he plays hard, and you love seeing that on the field every night, but at the same time, it's risky. He's entering his second offseason where he has to have a surgery. So that is a concern, but I think he's a smart enough guy where he knows he has to preserve himself better, and I think eventually we will see that all-star caliber, MVP caliber player.
Good statement. It's nice to have different opinions here. The last question that we're going to do is actually one that's really kind of out there a little bit, and it's kind of thinking out of the box. I'll take credit for it, but no, I really like this question because it's something that you need to think about in the near future, and that's a manager doesn't last very long, no matter, or a coach or in sports. Bill Belichick's an exception to the rule. Julian, for the Bruins, he's won a Stanley Cup, so he has a safety blanket a little bit. But we saw Doc Rivers get his championship, and he left. He went to the Clippers and everything. The one thing is with the Red Sox, John Farrell's not going to last forever. He's not. Let's be honest here. Terry Francona lasted, what, 9 seasons? Farrell has a championship, so this season will kind of be a safety blanket a little bit. But let's say they have another disaster like next year.
Farrell's not going anywhere.
You still don't think he's going anywhere?
They're not going to ship him out after 2 seasons. After the debacle they had with Terry Francona. What manager is going to want to come here after the debacle with Terry Francona and then giving John Farrell the boot just 2 years ago winning the World Series?
Now, here's a name that I would actually kick John Farrell to the street for and bring him in as a manager, and that's Jason Varitek. So my question here is, Jason Varitek will be the next manager of the Boston Red Sox. That could be 10 years from now, too.
Opinion.
Okay.
I love Varitek. One of my favorite players growing up. Another dirt dog. I love the way he would prepare for games, knew every pitch that was going to be thrown, knew what hitters would hit and miss at. I think Varitek will be a good MLB manager, and the reason he will not be a Red Sox manager is because Farrell, I don't think, is going anywhere in the near future. And then if in 10 years when they do need a manager, I think Varitek will be employed.
I think Varitek will be a manager, but guess what? It's not going to be with the Red Sox.
I mean,
I don't think it will be. Here's the reason why. There's a lot of catchers right now that have been former catchers in Major League Baseball that have turned into managers. You know, we've seen it with St. Louis Cardinals guy. That was what's his name?
I'm blanking on the name.
I can't think of it, but the Yankees have Joe Girardi, who is a former catcher. There's a lot of Mike Redmond from the Marlins is another guy. Catchers know the game of baseball. They know how to work a pitching staff, to produce in a lineup, things like that. And that's what makes them such a good manager type. I don't think Varitek's going to get his chance here with the Red Sox. I think he's going to end up being with like the Diamondbacks or somewhere where he lives out west. He lives out in the West Coast. Or the Giants or the Dodgers or something like that. So I think the Red Sox will have Farrell for a while, but I think that his chance as a manager will be with somebody else. Yeah,
and that's what I mean. He's going to be, by the time the Red Sox do need a manager, he will be employed by somebody else.
Well, that goes for face-off. That was our little game that we play there at the end. But one thing for sure, we know that a big game's coming up Monday night. It's for the Patriots when they play the Chiefs. Final statements.
I had a lot of fun today. Thanks for having me on. It was a good time. We talked about a lot of stuff, and it was good debate.
There was a lot to dissect. There was a lot of things going on. We hadn't done this show in a while, so we hope you enjoy it. And until next time, this is, first of all,
I'm John Hand.
And I'm Nick Face. We'll see you next time on Face the Facts. Good night, everybody.